The hangar was quiet. Only the low hum of the ship's engines and the clicking of tools echoed in the vast, empty space. A single human engineer worked late into the night. His name was Daniel. He was tired but focused, wiping the sweat from his forehead as he tightened a panel on the side of the freighter. Daniel liked these late hours. No crew members shouting orders, no captains rushing him. Just him, his tools, and the silence of deep space. But tonight, the silence broke in an unusual way. A shadow stretched across the floor, slowly covering him and the ship's hull. At first, Daniel thought it was just a light flickering. But when he looked up, his heart froze. Towering above him was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. A woman, no, not human, stood nearly 9 feet tall. Her skin shimmered faintly under the hangar lights, a pale silver with patterns like flowing rivers. Her hair was long, black as the void, falling past her shoulders, and her eyes glowed faintly with a strange blue light. She bent her head low, studying him like a scientist studies a small insect. Then, suddenly, she laughed. The sound was deep and powerful, bouncing off the metal walls. It wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It was the laugh of someone amused, someone who found him ridiculous. Daniel stepped back, nearly dropping his tool. His mind raced. Who is she? How did she get inside? The hangar's security should have been impossible to breach. You are small, she said, her voice smooth but heavy, like thunder wrapped in silk. Her words were clear, though her accent was strange, as if her tongue wasn't used to human language. Daniel swallowed hard. And you're not? Again, she laughed. This time louder, shaking her shoulders. Not, she repeated, amused. Her towering form leaned closer, and Daniel felt the weight of her presence. She could crush him with a single move. Before he could react, her massive hand reached out. Her long fingers wrapped around his waist, and in one effortless motion, she lifted him off the ground. His feet dangled in the air. Daniel gasped, panic rising in his chest. He struggled, but his strength was nothing compared to hers. It was like a child fighting against an adult. She held him as if he weighed nothing at all. You humans. So light, so fragile, she murmured, her glowing eyes scanning him. And yet, you build ships that fly among stars. Her voice was not mocking now. It carried a strange curiosity, almost respect. But still, the way she held him made Daniel feel small, powerless. Put me down, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. She tilted her head, as if considering whether to obey. Then, with surprising gentleness, she lowered him back to the floor. Daniel stumbled as his boots touched the metal surface, his knees weak. She stepped back slightly, though her presence still filled the entire space. Daniel noticed something. Her body carried scars. Faint lines across her arms and shoulders, marks of battles fought long before this night. Whoever she wasn't here for peace alone. Why are you here? Daniel asked carefully. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his curiosity was stronger. The alien woman's smile faded. Her glowing eyes narrowed. For a long moment, she said nothing, only watching him, as if deciding how much truth he deserved. Then she leaned closer again, whispering words that made Daniel's blood run cold. I came to see, she said, if the stories are true, if humans are weak, or if there is something hidden in you. Her gaze burned into him, sharp and unblinking. Daniel's heart pounded. He didn't know what kind of test she planned, or what her people believed about humanity. But he knew one thing. This was only the beginning. The hangar felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The engineer, once alone in the silence of space, now stood face to face with a giant who could end him or change his destiny. And in the distance, alarms began to flicker red, signaling that something far greater was coming. The first encounter had begun. Daniel's hands were still shaking from the first encounter. His body remembered the feeling of being lifted so easily, like he was no more than a feather. He stood frozen in the hangar, his eyes fixed on the alien giantess before. Hindachi did not move for several seconds. Her tall frame stood in silence, her glowing eyes watching him with interest, as if he was a puzzle she had not solved yet. Then, with a sudden sharpness, she raised her hand and pointed at a thick steel pipe running across the wall. "Show me," she said. Daniel blinked. "Show you what?" Her lips curved into a smile, sharp and knowing. "Strength." Before he could ask, she turned toward the pipe. With one smooth motion, she gripped the steel and squeezed. The metal groaned, then bent as if it were nothing more than soft clay. A loud crack echoed in the hangar as the pipe snapped in two. Sparks flew from the broken edge, and steam hissed into the air. Daniel stumbled back, staring in shock. That pipe could withstand pressure strong enough to keep an entire coolant system stable. And she had broken it like a twig. Her eyes turned back to him, challenging. "Now you." Daniel's mouth went dry. "Me? Yes. Show me the power of a human." He almost laughed, but his fear strangled the sound. How could he match that? His muscles were nothing compared to her height and strength. Still, something inside him stirred. A stubbornness, a refusal to be mocked as weak. Slowly, Daniel walked to another section of pipe. He grabbed it with both hands, bracing his boots on the floor. He pulled, grunted, and strained until his arms trembled. But the steel didn't move an inch. His breath came in gasps, sweat rolling down his forehead. The alien woman's deep laughter filled the hangar once again. "Fragile," she said. Daniel's pride burned hotter than his muscles. He wasn't going to let her see him as nothing. "Maybe I can't break steel," he said through clenched teeth. "But humans don't rely only on strength." Her glowing eyes narrowed, curious. "Explain." Daniel ran to his toolbox. He pulled out a plasma cutter, sparks spitting as the blade ignited with a blue glow. He pressed it to the pipe and, within seconds, the metal sliced open cleanly. The hiss of steam filled the air as he stepped back, holding the cutter steady. "Brains," he said. "That's our strength." The alien tilted her head, watching the tool in silence. Then, to Daniel's surprise, she let out a slow, rumbling laugh again. But this time it was different. Not mockery, it sounded like, "Respect, you cannot break with hands," she said, "so you break with mind." She stepped closer, towering over him, her scarred shoulders gleaming under the lights. "Perhaps this is strength of another kind." Daniel lowered the cutter, but his heart still pounded. He could see the wheels turning in her mind. She was measuring him, testing him, and not just for her own amusement. There was a purpose behind this. He dared to ask, "Why are you testing me?" Her smile faded. She stared at him, then at the broken steel scattered across the floor. "Because my people believe humans are nothing, weak, worthless. I wanted to see with my own eyes." Daniel swallowed. "And what do you see now?" The alien woman leaned down, her face only inches from his. Her glowing blue eyes locked onto his. For a moment, Daniel felt his entire body freeze under her gaze. "I see. You are small," she whispered, her voice like distant thunder, "but not powerless." Her words sent a shiver through him. They carried weight, as if they weren't just her opinion, but a truth that could change everything. Before Daniel could reply, a sudden alarm blared across the hangar. Red lights flashed, and the sound of metal grinding echoed through the walls. Something was coming. The alien's eyes darted toward the heavy doors. Her posture shifted, no longer amused, no longer playful. She stood ready, her hands curling into fists, her tall frame tense with anticipation. Daniel's breath caught. This test wasn't over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The red alarm echoed across the hangar, bouncing off the steel walls like a warning drum. Daniel's chest tightened as he turned toward the massive doors. Heavy grinding filled the air, and the metal shook as if something powerful was trying to break in. The alien woman's glowing eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to Daniel. Her earlier laughter was gone. Her face was sharp, serious. She stood like a warrior preparing for battle. "They are coming," she said. Daniel's voice shook. "Who's coming?" "Hunters." The word dropped like a stone. She didn't explain further, but Daniel didn't need details to know it was bad. Whoever or whatever was outside had triggered the emergency alarms of a ship built for war. The doors burst open with a screech of tearing metal. Small machines, black and insect-like, crawled through the opening. Their eyes glowed red, and their bodies hissed with the crackle of energy weapons, drones, lots of them. Daniel's stomach dropped. Those things will tear this place apart. The alien woman's lips pulled back in something between a snarl and a smile. "Then let them try." She charged forward before Daniel could even think. Her massive body moved faster than seemed possible for her size. With one strike of her arm, she smashed 2 drones into the floor, metal crunching under her power. Sparks flew, and the smell of burning circuits filled the air. Daniel stumbled back, eyes wide. She was a storm, her strength unstoppable. But the drones kept coming, swarming through the doors like a flood of steel insects. Daniel's mind raced. He wasn't a fighter, he was an engineer. But he couldn't just watch. He ran to the control panel on the side of the hangar wall, fingers flying over switches and commands. If he could activate the defense turrets, maybe they stood a chance. Alien woman noticed. "You fight with your mind again," she shouted between strikes. Daniel gritted his teeth, sparks flashing around him as he rewired the system. Brains and tools, remember? The drones fired, energy blasts slicing through the air. One shot struck near the panel, sending Daniel sprawling across the floor. Pain shot up his arm, but he forced himself back to his knees. His vision blurred. But he refused to stop. The alien giantess moved to shield him, her body taking the brunt of another blast. The strike left a glowing burn across her silver skin, but she didn't fall. She growled low, eyes blazing, and smashed the attacking drone into scrap. "Small human," she said, her voice fierce, "but you are not weak." Daniel's hands trembled, but he managed to slam the final switch. A deep hum shook the hangar as the automated turrets dropped from the ceiling. They whirred to life, spitting streams of plasma into the swarm. Drones exploded in showers of sparks, the tide finally slowing. Together, her strength and his mind, they fought until the last machine fell silent. Smoke and broken parts scattered across the floor. Daniel collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. His ears rang from the battle, and his arms felt like lead. The alien woman stood in the center of the wreckage, her chest rising and falling. Her glowing eyes turned to Daniel. Slowly she walked over, her massive form towering above him. For the first time, her voice softened. "You could have run. You stayed. You fought with me." Daniel managed a weak smile. "Didn't really have a choice, did I?" Her lips curved slightly. "A choice is always there. You chose to stand." For a moment, silence filled the hangar. Then she lowered herself, kneeling so her eyes met his. Her size was still intimidating. But something had changed. She no longer looked at him as a fragile creature. She looked at him as an equal. "My people believe humans are useless," she said. "But now I wonder. Perhaps we were wrong." Daniel's heart thudded. The way she said it carried weight, like she was beginning to see him not as prey, but as a partner. Before he could reply, the comm system crackled to life. A distorted voice filled the hangar. "Warning, enemy ships detected. Brace for impact." Daniel's blood ran cold. The drones were only the beginning. The alien woman rose to her full height, her massive shadow covering him. She extended a huge hand, palm open. "Human," she said, her voice steady. "Fight with me." Daniel stared at her hand, then at the broken drones around them. His pulse pounded as he realized what this meant. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was the start of something bigger. An alliance. The hangar lights flickered, then cut out. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. Only the red emergency lamps glowed, bathing the wreckage of drones in a bloody haze. Daniel's breath caught. The announcement still echoed in his ears. Enemy ships detected. The alien woman stood tall, her eyes glowing blue in the dark like twin flames. "They come for me," she said. Her voice was steady, but Daniel caught a note of tension. "Why?" Daniel asked, forcing his voice to stay calm. Her gaze shifted to the heavy blast doors. "Because I defied them. Because I came here. And now they will not allow either of us to live." Before Daniel could press further, the walls trembled. A deep rumble rolled through the ship as something docked violently with the outer hull. The screech of metal grinding against metal filled the hangar. Then came the sound of cutting torches. Slicing through the blast doors, Daniel's stomach twisted. Whoever these enemies were, they were close, and they were strong. The alien woman crouched low, her massive muscles tense like a predator ready to pounce. She motioned to Daniel. "Stay behind me," but Daniel shook his head. "If they're coming through that door, we'll need more than fists. Follow me." He sprinted toward the side corridor, his boots slamming against the steel floor. The alien woman followed, her heavy steps making the ground quake. Together, they slipped into the service tunnels that wound behind the hangar walls. The tunnels were narrow, dark, and filled with humming pipes. Daniel had worked in them countless times, but now every shadow seemed alive. He pulled a small handheld scanner from his belt, its green light flickering across the walls. "They'll break through in minutes," he whispered. "But if we move through the tunnels, we can strike from behind. Surprise them." The alien tilted her head. "A trap." Daniel nodded. "Exactly." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good. I like traps." They moved quietly through the tunnels, Daniel leading with the scanner and the alien towering behind, her presence both protective and overwhelming. The hum of enemy voices grew louder as they neared the back of the hangar. Harsh, guttural speech echoed through the metal walls. Daniel's heart pounded. He peeked through a vent and froze. Half a dozen towering figures stood inside the hangar now, larger than the drones, but smaller than the alien woman. They wore heavy armor, their faces hidden behind helmets, and each carried a weapon pulsing with crimson energy. Their leader barked orders, pointing toward the wreckage. "They're looking for you," Daniel whispered to the alien, her eyes narrowed. Hunters, Daniel studied them, strong, armed, and organized. He had no chance against them in a straight fight, but maybe he didn't need to. He turned to her. "Can you take them if I create a distraction?" She gave him a sharp grin, her scars catching the red light. "I need no distraction, but it will make it more fun." Daniel slipped into the control junction near the vent. He rewired quickly, fingers flying across cables and circuits. The air was hot, sweat dripping down his brow. The alien waited. Silently, her glowing eyes never leaving the armored figures below. With a final spark, Daniel overloaded the hangar's power grid. The overhead cranes roared to life, swinging down violently. Heavy chains crashed onto the floor, knocking two hunters off balance. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The alien woman moved like lightning. She burst through the vent and landed in the hangar with a thunderous crash, the floor shaking under her. "Wait." She grabbed the nearest hunter by the arm and hurled him across the room like a ragdoll. Another swung his blade at her, but she caught it in her bare hand, snapping the weapon in two. Her laughter rang out, wild and fearless. Daniel joined the chaos from above, controlling the cranes and machinery. Every time a hunter tried to flank her, he triggered a machine to block or strike them. It was chaos metal shrieking. Weapons firing, the aliens' roars mixing with the sound of Daniel's machines. One by one, the hunters fell. Some crushed under steel, others broken by her. Brute force. Finally, silence filled the hangar again. The alien woman stood in the center of the wreckage, her chest heaving, her silver skin scorched with burns, but her eyes burning brighter than ever. Daniel dropped down from the vent, landing hard on his knees. His breath came in gasps. "You fight like no human I've met," she said, her voice steady. Daniel managed a weak laugh. "That's because I don't fight, I fix. Fighting is your job." She looked at him for a long moment, then spoke, in a low voice that carried more weight than any roar. "Perhaps. It is our job now." Daniel froze. In that moment, he understood this wasn't just survival. This was the beginning of something far greater. An alliance was no longer a choice. It was already happening. And somewhere deep in the shadows, Daniel knew the real war was only just beginning. The hangar was silent again, but not for long. Smoke curled from broken machines, sparks hissed from torn wires, and the floor was littered with shattered armor and drone parts. Daniel leaned against the wall, chest heaving. His hands were cut, his clothes torn, and his body ached from crawling through the tunnels. The alien woman stood tall in the center of the wreckage, her massive chest rising and falling, her glowing eyes fixed on the ruined blast doors. For the first time, Daniel realized she looked tired. Not weak, never weak, but as if she carried something heavy inside her that not even her size could hide. He wiped the sweat from his face. "They weren't here for me, were they?" Her gaze shifted to him. A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of dying machines. Finally she spoke. "No, they were here for me." Daniel frowned. "Why? Who are you?" She didn't answer at once. Instead, she lowered herself slowly, sitting cross-legged on the cracked steel floor. The movement was graceful, yet her presence still filled the space, dwarfing everything around her. "My name does not matter in your tongue," she said, her voice softer than before. "But my people call me Kareth." Daniel repeated it quietly. "Kareth." Her glowing eyes narrowed slightly, as if hearing her name from his mouth stirred something unexpected. Then she looked away. "My people are warriors," she continued. "For centuries, we conquered worlds, enslaved weaker races, crushed all who resisted. We measured worth only in strength, muscles, weapons, blood spilled. And when humans were discovered, my people laughed. Small, fragile, worthless." Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard stories of alien empires that looked down on humanity. But hearing it from her lips, here in front of him, made it sting more than he wanted to admit. "And you?" he asked. "You thought the same?" Kareth's eyes returned to him, glowing faintly brighter. "I was raised to believe it, but I doubted. There were whispers among us, whispers that humans built things our kind never could. That you were more than your size. I wanted to see for myself." Daniel shifted uneasily. "So you came here?" "Yes." Her voice dropped lower, almost like a growl. "I left without permission. That is why the hunters came. I am a traitor to them." Now, the words hung heavy in the air. Daniel stared at her, piecing it together. She wasn't just some curious wanderer. She was a fugitive, hunted by her own kind. "You risked everything," Daniel said slowly. "Just to test us?" Her laugh was low and bitter. "To test you. To test if the stories of your mind, your spirit, were true." She gestured to the broken drones and shattered hunters around them. "And now I have my answer." Daniel swallowed hard. "Which is?" Kareth leaned closer, her massive shadow falling over him. Her scars caught the dim red light, and for the first time, Daniel noticed her hands tremble ever so slightly. "That humans are not weak," she said. "You are dangerous." The word sent a chill down Daniel's spine. He didn't know if she meant it as a warning or as respect. Maybe both. Before he could respond, a faint vibration rolled through the floor. Daniel tensed, looking around. The battle alarms were silent now, but something deeper, heavier, shook the hull. Kareth's eyes snapped upward. They will not stop. More will come. Daniel's throat went dry. Your people? She nodded. They will not forgive betrayal. And now, because you fought beside me, they will see you as my ally. Which means they will come for you too. Daniel froze. A wave of realization hit him. His life had changed in a single night. He wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was part of something much larger, something dangerous. Why tell me this? He asked, his voice unsteady. Kareth. Glowing eyes softened. Because you deserve truth. And because... She hesitated, the words heavy on her tongue. Because I cannot face what comes alone. For a moment, Daniel forgot the size difference, the fear, the chaos around them. He saw only a warrior, scarred and hunted, admitting something rare. Need. He took a slow breath. Then I guess you're stuck with me. Kareth tilted her head, her lips curving into the faintest smile. Yes, a strange alliance indeed. The floor shook again, harder this time. A deep rumble of engines echoed outside the hangar, powerful and close. Daniel's pulse spiked. He didn't need Kareth to tell him what it meant. Her people were here, and this time, they weren't sending hunters. The ground shook again. Harder this time, rattling loose panels from the ceiling. Daniel steadied himself against the wall as the roar of engines grew louder, pressing like a storm against the hangar's steel walls. Kareth rose to her full height. In the red emergency light, her silver skin seemed carved from iron, her scars glowing faintly as if alive with memory. Her glowing blue eyes narrowed, scanning the shadows above. They have arrived, she said. Daniel's mouth went dry. How many? Enough to burn this ship from the sky. The words fell heavy. Daniel's chest tightened. He wasn't a soldier, not a hero. He was just a mechanic who fixed ships. But now, somehow, he was standing between humanity and an alien empire that saw them as weak. Kareth turned to him, lowering herself slightly so her eyes met his. This is where paths divide, she said. You must choose. Daniel frowned. Choose what? To fight beside me. Or to survive. Alone. Her words echoed in his head. If he stayed with her, he would be hunted as well. Her people would never forgive what she had done. If he walked away, maybe, just maybe, he could hide. Pretend none of this happened. But when he looked at her, he saw more than a towering alien. Warrior. He saw someone who had risked everything to find truth. Someone scarred, hunted, yet unwilling to kneel. His instincts screamed to run. But something deeper inside whispered otherwise. I'm no soldier. Daniel said quietly. Kareth studied him, silent. I don't have weapons, training, or anything close to your strength. He continued. But I've seen enough to know. This, if I walk away now, they'll still come. Not just for me. For Earth, for everyone. Her lips curved, not into laughter this time, but into something sharper approval. You understand. The ground shook again, a metallic roar reverberating through the walls. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere deep in the ship, heavy. Cannons roared to life, returning fire. Kareth extended her massive hand. Then stand with me, Daniel of Earth. Stand as ally. Daniel looked at her hand. It was large enough to crush his chest in a single motion. But when she had lifted him before, she had lowered him back gently. Trusting her was madness. But not trusting her seemed worse. Slowly, he placed his smaller hand against her palm. Her fingers curled around him, not to trap, but to seal a pact. Her voice was low, almost reverent. Then by choice, we fight together. The moment held, heavy and unshakable. Then the comm system blared again, cold and mechanical. Warning, multiple boarding parties detected. Hull breach imminent. Kareth stood, releasing him, her eyes burning brighter. They send more. Not drones, not hunters, warriors. Daniel's heart thudded painfully. How many warriors? Her jaw tightened. Too many for me to defeat alone. He exhaled sharply. Then it's a good thing you're not alone anymore. Kareth's sharp grin returned, fierce and dangerous. Human spirit, she said. Now I see it. They moved quickly through the tunnels. Daniel grabbed what tools and weapons he could: plasma cutters, a welding torch, even a coil of high-voltage wire. Improvised, yes, but they would have to do. The lights above flickered again, plunging them into half-darkness. The ship moaned, as if under crushing weight. And then, the sound, claws, heavy boots, dozens of them echoing through the corridors. The enemy was inside. Daniel's pulse raced. Kareth crouched low beside him, her voice a whisper of thunder. No turning back now, he nodded, swallowing the fear. No turning back. For a moment, they stood side by side, giant and human, fugitive and mechanic, staring into the darkness of the approaching threat. And Daniel realized something. His choice hadn't been about survival. It had been about meaning. If he ran, he lived as prey. But if he stayed, he lived as part of something bigger, something that could rewrite how humans were seen across the stars. The shadows deepened. The enemy drew near. Karetha's hand tightened around the broken shaft of a drone blade she had taken as a weapon. Daniel gripped his plasma cutter, the light humming in his hand. Side by side, they stepped into the dark. The choice was made. The corridor shook as heavy boots and claws slammed against the metal floor. The sound grew louder, closer, until it felt like the ship itself was trembling with fear. Daniel tightened his grip on the plasma cutter. The faint blue glow buzzed. In his hand, his only weapon. Beside him, Kareth crouched low, her enormous frame coiled like a predator ready to strike. Her scars glistened in the half-darkness, her glowing eyes locked on the shadows ahead. Then the enemy appeared. Dozens of armored warriors poured into the corridor, their shoulders scraping the walls, their weapons pulsing with crimson energy. They were larger than Daniel, smaller than Kareth, but their numbers filled the space like a living tide. The leader stepped forward, his helmet shaped like a beast's skull. His voice boomed through the combs of his armor. Kareth. He snarled, "Traitor." Kareth straightened, her towering form rising above them all. She spoke with calm defiance. "If seeking truth makes me traitor, then so be it." The leader raised his weapon. "Then you die with your pet." His gaze flicked to Daniel, dismissive, cruel. Daniel's stomach twisted. But Kareth stepped forward, placing herself squarely between him and the enemy. Her voice thundered through the corridor. "He is no pet. He is my ally." The declaration stunned them for a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, Daniel acted. He yanked a power coil from his pack, slammed it against the wall, and overloaded the circuit. Sparks exploded in a flash of blinding light, forcing the enemy to shield their eyes. "Now!" he shouted. Kareth roared and launched herself forward. Her massive fists crushed through armor, her strikes echoing like thunderclaps. She tore weapons from enemy hands and used them against their owners. The corridor became chaos, metal screaming, sparks flying, and bodies slamming against the walls. Daniel ducked behind her, slashing at armor joints with his cutter, tripping enemies with cables, shocking others with live wires. He wasn't as strong, but every strike bought Kareth another opening. Still, the numbers were overwhelming. For every warrior that fell, 2 more pushed forward. Energy blasts scorched the walls, the floor, Kareth's skin. She grunted as one shot burned across her shoulder, the glow of pain flashing in her eyes. Daniel's chest tightened. She couldn't hold forever. "Fall back," he shouted, but Kareth only laughed, a deep, thunderous sound that echoed even through the chaos. "No, human, forward." She surged again, smashing her way through the front line, dragging Daniel with her. Step by step, they forced the enemy back, deeper into the ship's loading bay. Then it happened. The enemy leader raised his weapon, energy humming at the tip. Kareth was mid-strike, too far to block in time. The blast shot forward, straight toward her chest. Without thinking, Daniel lunged. He shoved her sideways, the beam slicing past her and slamming into the wall behind. The explosion threw him to the ground, pain tearing through his body as heat seared across his side. Kareth spun, eyes wide. For the first time there was no laughter, no mockery in her gaze, only shock. "You protected me," Daniel groaned, forcing himself to his knees. "Guess. That makes us even." The leader roared in fury, charging forward. But Kareth was faster now, fueled by something new. She caught his blade, twisted, and drove him to the ground with a strike so powerful the deck plates cracked. The remaining warriors froze. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, they stepped back, dragging their wounded with them. The corridor cleared, leaving silence behind. Daniel collapsed against the wall, gasping. Kareth stood over him, her chest heaving, her glowing eyes locked on him. Slowly, she crouched, her massive hand reaching out, but instead of lifting him, like before, she bowed her head. "In my people's ways," she said softly, "this means you are my equal. My partner." Daniel blinked through the haze of pain. "Equal? Me?" Her lips curved in a rare, genuine smile. "Yes, small, but unbreakable." The words hung in the air, heavy and true. Something had shifted, not just between them, but in the course of what was coming. Because in that moment, Daniel understood. Humanity was no longer being tested. Humanity had been recognized. The ship shuddered again, this time from the outside. Through the bay windows, Daniel saw the dark outline of a massive fleet blotting out the stars. Kareth's eyes narrowed. Fierce and unyielding, she rose too. Her full height, towering like a living shield. "The turning point is here," she said. This was only the first battle. Daniel gripped his cutter tighter, pain forgotten. He stood beside her, small but steady. Together, they stared at the fleet, and the war truly began.